Rabotai, we right now are in the Chodesh of Elul. The Chodesh of Elul, the month of Elul, is the month, as Chazal teaches, Ani Leludi V'Dodi. It's the month where a person that wants to do Teshuvah, in this month, a person, what he can do in this month is something that he can't do throughout the entire year. If a person in this month decides to do Teshuvah, the Teshuvah that he can do is a Teshuvah that throughout the year he won't be able to reach this level of Teshuvah. If a person looks for HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this month, a person that will look for him will find him. Hashem karov lekol koreah, v'kol asher yikru be'emet. A person that wants to find HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this month, and this month is the month to find it. Now it's not only that, this month is actually the month that every action that we do, good or bad, in the month of Elul, directly reflects on the year to come. If we take this month and we do Teshuvah, and we take this month and we take it to the good side, and we do mitzvot, and we try our effort to do as many tefillot as we can, then the year to come will be a year full of bracha, a year full of atzlacha. But if we take this month and we're lazy and we continue to do like a regular day, then Hashem Yirachem, we will have to pay for what we did throughout the entire year. So this month, Rabotai, is the month that we should all do our effort to do as many mitzvot, to do as many good deeds as we can. Rabotai, throughout the month, you're going to hear something that repeats itself. You're going to hear every drasha we speak about Teshuvah. And in every drasha, the drasha is going to finish off by saying, Be'ezrat Hashem, if you do Teshuvah, then by you doing Teshuvah, Be'ezrat Hashem, you will be able to bring the Geulah. Or that by you doing Teshuvah, Be'ezrat Hashem, you will be able to bring the third Bet HaMikdash. Or to Be'ezrat Hashem, that Mashiach will come. But there's something that we all think to ourselves, and we say sometimes, by me doing Teshuvah, will that really change the way the world is? By me, one person doing Teshuvah, will I really be able to affect 14 million Jews? Sometimes we think to ourselves and we say, wait, if there's 14 million Jews, then if 14 million Jews do Teshuvah at the same time, then something could happen. But by me doing Teshuvah, will my small footprint really change anything? So B'ezrat Hashem, I want you to hold on to that question. And we're going to look at different points of this question throughout B'ezrat Hashem Midrasha. In Masechet Kala, in Perek Bet, there's a story of Rabbi Akiva. The Gemara says at one time Rabbi Akiva was crossing the desert. And when he was crossing the desert, he saw a man that was holding a big pile of wood on his shoulders. And he was running with that wood. When Rabbi Akiva saw this man running in the desert, he said, this man, something's different. Nobody runs in the desert. The desert, it's hundreds of miles long. If you run, you get tired and you fall. So this man that's running in the desert, where does he expect to go? There's 200 miles of desert, 200 miles from every direction. So where is he running? Rabbi Akiva decided to run after this man to see really what's happening. When Rabbi Akiva caught this man, he asked him, what are you doing? Why are you running when anyways you're going to run, eventually you're going to fall? This man said, listen, I have no time to speak to you. Let me go, I'm in a rush. Rabbi Akiva said, you're in a rush to where? I order you to stop. So this man stopped, and Rabbi Akiva asked him a couple of questions. Rabbi Akiva asked him, why are you running when there's nowhere to run? So this man told Rabbi Akiva, I don't belong to this world. I am from the next world. When I was in the world, there wasn't a sin that I didn't do. Any sin that was available, that existed in the world, I was the first one to run and do it. And now that I left this world, my punishment is that every day they send me down to the world. And when they send me down to the world, I have to go and cut wood. And I have to prepare wood for a fire. And I take this wood and I cross the desert. And after I cross the desert, I prepare the fire and I light the fire and I burn myself alive. And after I burn myself alive, I get up and those malachim, those bad malachim, they get up and they announce all the sins that I did. And these malachim, if I am late, they will end up punish me and hit me with whips of fire. So I have no time to lose. So Rabbi Akiva looked at him and he said, at least tell me if you left the sun. At least tell me if you left the sun in the world, that maybe through your son we can fix something. So this man, he said, listen, I'm in a rush. I left the sun when I was, before I passed away, my wife was pregnant. I don't know if I have a son or if I don't. Maybe it's a daughter, maybe I do, maybe I don't know. But I left my wife was pregnant in this city. Rabbi Akiva right away turned around and went towards that city. This man continued with his journey of Chas v'Shalom, doing this punishment that he kept on repeating. When Rabbi Akiva reached this city, he right away started to ask about this man, and if it's possible that he has a son that is alive. The entire city, they said, you're asking about that Rasha? That Rasha, that every sin that existed under the planet, he was the first one to make his way to do that sin the second it was available. That Rasha, why are you even looking for his son? Because his son is no different. So Rabbi Akiva, he looked at him and he said, listen, I'm searching for the son. It's none of your business to know why am I looking for the son. So they pointed where this the son of this Rasha lived. Rabbi Akiva approached the house of this son, and le'at, he started to try to bring him back to Teshuvah. Every single day he would come to his house, talk to him, do kiruv, try to bring him slowly by slowly, try to make him come back to Teshuvah mi'ahava, not mi'ira. And le'at, he convinced him to go and to learn Aleph Bet. And le'at, he convinced him to go and to start learning Torah. And this boy started off like Rabbi Akiva, started Aleph Bet, and slowly by slowly he started to grow in Torah until eventually he got to the point where he was a big Talmid Chacham. When this boy of this son was a big Talmid Chacham, Rabbi Akiva says at one time, this man approached and appeared to Rabbi Akiva. And he told Rabbi Akiva, you can rest now. What you did for me, that you pulled me out of this situation where I was at, I can never repay you for what you did for me. But you can rest because I'm already at such a high place where I feel embarrassed. Me, a person that did sins all my life, I'm sitting down between tzaddikim. Please stop here. I saw in the book of Eliyahu Zuta, of Eliyahu Navi, that Eliyahu Navi says about this man, that when did they take this man out of Gehenna? They pulled this man out of Gehenna the second the son did the first Aliyah LeTorah. When he did Baruch Hu et Hashem Mevorach, right away they sent angels into Gehenna and they dragged that man out of Gehenna. The first time he did the Bracha, the Torah. Now, Rabotai, this is a beautiful story that we can learn from, that, as we know, when we have kids, essentially the kids are a safety. Chas v'Shalom, if a person didn't do the right path and he wasn't on the right path when he was alive, the kids are the safety of a person, because we know what the Gemara says, Masachet Sanhedrin and Kuf Dalet Amud Bet, that Ben Mezaket Aviv, the son gives merit to the father. And as we know, that also answers the question of why in Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur we say that in Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur the books of the life and the dead are open in front of Hashem. There's a question there. This is a side there. Why is the books of the dead open? They're already dead. They're already judged. Why are you rejudging every year the books of the dead? Because if a person in his life, he raised kids and he did mitzvot, and those kids continue on to do mitzvot and to keep Torah and mitzvot, and whatever effect he had when he was alive, and when the effect he made, that continuation, all those merit belongs to him. So essentially, it gives the opportunity for everyone to grow in Olam Ha'elyon, and for everyone to fix his situation in Olam Ha'elyon. Now, we hear the story of Rabbi Akiva. There's a question, something that bothers me. We know in Masechet Nedarim, in Daf Nun, Amud Aleph, there's the story of Rabbi Akiva. We know that Rabbi Akiva, he did Teshuvah when he was how old? 40. He was 40, he did Teshuvah. He started Teshuvah lat, and his wife sent him to the yeshiva for 12 years. After 12 years that he didn't see his wife at the yeshiva, he comes back with how many students? 12,000 students. When he comes with his 12,000 students to the house of his wife, after 12 years he didn't see him, he's about to knock on the door, and he hears his wife speaking to someone. And this person is telling his wife, your husband left for 12 years. How do you live like that? Why is it that things worked out like that? So, as we know, the wife of Rabbi Akiva was a tzaddiket. She said, if he were to hear me, I would rather him stay in the yeshiva another 12 years. The Gemara says, what did it say? He was about to knock. He turned around and went back to the yeshiva. And he went back for another 12 years. He didn't see his wife for 24 years. And after 24 years, he came back with how many students? 24,000 students. Now, but I have a question.
Good idea.
He couldn't knock on the door. He couldn't knock on the door. He couldn't just knock on the door, sit down with his wife for 5 minutes, then go back to the yeshiva. What was the point of Rabbi Akiva? You didn't see your wife for 12 years. She gave up her life in order for you to go learn Torah. And 5 minutes you're not willing to give her? The 5 minutes to just sit down and maybe drink a coffee. Why not? Why didn't he do that? And the answer to this is simple. Because Rabbi Akiva knew the value of every second of his Torah. That the second he saw that he had the opportunity to save those 5 minutes that he were to sit with his wife, those 5 minutes that he can save, he grabbed the opportunity and he took it. For 5 minutes of Torah, he was willing to not see his wife for 24 years. We see, Rabotai, how much every second of Rabbi Akiva was valuable. Every second. You have 24,000 students. Imagine you to teach one halacha to 24,000 students. How much you need to work. So we see Rabbi Akiva that every second is so valuable. Why did he waste so much time on that son of that Rasha? He has 24,000 students, but he wastes so much time trying to bring one person back to Teshuvah. For that one son of the Rasha, he did everything. He did all his efforts, bringing it back to Teshuvah. You have 24,000 students. You teach 24,000 students. 1 minute, it's 24,000 minutes of Limud Torah. So instead of using all that time where he can teach his 24,000 students, he's chasing after this boy trying to bring him back to Teshuvah. Doesn't that seem as a waste of time? If you have 24,000 students, teach them 5 minutes at 120,000 minutes of Torah. 5 minutes. So what is this that Rabbi Akiva wastes all this time? And the answer to this, Rabotai, is simple. Rabbi Akiva knew the value, what every single Jew brings to the table. Rabbi Akiva knew that one Jew, the power that one Jew that did Teshuvah is priceless. One more Yehudi that's keeping Torah mitzvot is priceless. There's no price of time, there's no price of limud. It's infinite. One person that does Teshuvah, one person that does a good deed, all Bnei Israel, they can benefit from it. That essentially, that Rabbi Akiva was willing to invest all this time, but to bring one more Jew back to Teshuvah. We see, Rabotai, the value that each and every one of us bring when we come and we do Teshuvah and when we do a mitzvah. There's a Gemara in Masechet Yoma, in Daf Pei Vav Amud Bet. There the Gemara says that Gdola HaTeshuvah she'asa yachid she'lo ve'lekol ha'olam kulo mochalim lהם. A single person that did Teshuvah, a single person that got up and decided to come back to Teshuvah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu forgives him and forgives the entire world. Rabotai, why? What did the whole world do to deserve that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will forgive all their sins? One person got up to do Teshuvah, and because of one person, you're forgiving the entire world from all their sins? It doesn't make sense. What did the world do to deserve this? And Rabotai, the answer to this is the biggest, so it's a big secret that we should all know. When a person does Teshuvah, he brings down a big Kedusha and a big koach, a big power down to the world. When this Kedusha comes down to the world from one person that's doing Teshuvah, that Kedusha, that power, has enough strength to bring the entire world back to Teshuvah. That by one person doing Teshuvah, that energy of Teshuvah has the strength to bring back the entire world. That Kedusha spreads to the entire world. So if that one person that did Teshuvah did a big enough Teshuvah that he brought down such a Kedusha, if the entire world did Teshuvah, it has that Teshuvah has the power to do so. If the entire world did Teshuvah, it would be the biggest form of Teshuvah. Why? Because the entire world would be considered that they did Teshuvah on their own, which is the biggest act of Teshuvah, because they did it on their own. But all the merit of the entire world's Teshuvah belongs to whom? To that one person that did Teshuvah. Hagra says something amazing about this concept. He says that first of all, we know that Baalei Teshuvah are even bigger than tzaddikim. In a place that Baalei Teshuvah stand, even the tzaddikim gumurim cannot reach that level. Now there's a question about this, because how can we say that a person that does Teshuvah is bigger than Rabbi Akiva? Not Rabbi Akiva, because Rabbi Akiva actually did Teshuvah. But how can you say that a person that did Teshuvah is bigger than Moshe Rabbeinu, than bigger than all those big tzaddikim? And the answer to that is simple. This is just a side note. the Zohar Kadosh Parashat Noach, it explains the levels of Shamayim, and there it said that there's tzaddikim. Over tzaddikim there is Baalei Teshuvah, but there's one level over Baalei Teshuvah, and that is Hasidim. And as we know, the difference between a tzaddik and a Hasid is that a tzaddik does 100% Torah mitzvot, keeps the Torah 100%. A Hasid does 200, 300%. That's the difference between a Hasid and a tzaddik. Now, when a tzaddik learns Torah, Hagra says that the tzaddik is like a bucket. But it's like a bucket full of water. If you spill more water into that bucket, what's going to happen? The water is going to overflow and it's going to spill everywhere. And as we know, water is Torah. So that tzaddik that is a full bucket of water, when more water enters it, water comes out and all the ground surrounding that bucket can nourish from the water that's now it's receiving. That is a tzaddik, that is a Baal Teshuvah. When he does Teshuvah, when a tzaddik learns Torah, when a person that does Teshuvah continues doing Torah and mitzvot, the entire world benefits from that Teshuvah, benefits from that Torah. You know, there's something amazing that Ramban, the explanation on Shir HaShirim, there he says that when there is a ribui or, when there is a lot of or that comes down to the world, that or transforms from a or which is koach to a poal. When a person does teshuvah, he brings a big light to the world. That light transforms from a koach, from a power, from strength, to a poal, to an action. So essentially that when a person does teshuvah, he brings a big light. That light spreads on the entire world, and the whole world has the koach to come back to teshuvah. We know, Rabotai, if the sun would rise for one person in the world, the entire world would benefit from it. If the sun was to come up for one person that exists on the planet, the entire planet benefits from one person. And that, Rabotai, is teshuvah. When a person does teshuvah, he brings down a light, he brings down a kedusha down to the world, that essentially we all benefit from it. When one person does a mitzvah, when one person does a good deed, he brings down a kedusha that we can all benefit from this big kedusha, and that every single good deed that we do as a single individual has big value and does a lot of rash, a lot of noise and shamayim. So that answers our question of, is it possible that one person can bring the Geulah? Yes. One person, by doing a real teshuvah, one person that he picks himself up, and this month, as we know that it's the month of the teshuvah, it's a chodesh ha'achamim v'aselichot. If this one person does a complete teshuvah, he can bring the Geulah. Because one person has the koach to bring the entire world back to teshuvah. And that, Rabotai, is a little bit about Chodesh Elul. As I mentioned to Rabbi Yosef, today also we have a big merit that it's the Ilulah of my grandfather, Rabbi Moshe. Now, a concept that it always interests me, of why is it that on the day of the Ilulah, of any tzaddik, we all gather together and we do an event? What's so special that on the day of the Ilulah, we all gather, we do lechaim, we speak about the tzaddik, we learn the Torah of the tzaddik? What's the difference of any other day of the year? Why can't I pray with the mirror to the tzaddik on any other day of the year? Why the day of the Ilulah is so important? So Chazal teach us that on the day of the Ilulah, 3 days before the Ilulah and 3 days after the Ilulah, the tzaddik receives a big power in Shammai, which with this power, he's able to grant any tefillah that a person approaches the tzaddik and prays in honor of the tzaddik. That when we approach an Ilulah of the tzaddik, if we pray in honor of a specific tzaddik for each and everyone's specific prayers, that tzaddik has the power to grant any tefillah. Now, in order for the tzaddik to grant any tefillah that a person has, he has to connect to the tzaddik. How do you connect to a tzaddik? So there's two ways of connecting to a tzaddik. There's one way that you connect to the tzaddik by learning his Torah. We pick up the book that he put together and we learn his Torah. And the second way of connecting to the tzaddik is by saying one of his stories. A story that happened to him. Why is that? The Gemara in Masechet Bechorot, Daf Lamed Aleph Amud Bet, there says something amazing. The Gemara says that Amar Rabbi Shimon, when a person sits down and learns Torah from a specific tzaddik and mentions his name, like we just did now, Amar Rabbi Shimon, That tzaddik in the grave, saftotav medavdevot bakever. That tzaddik in his grave, his lips move and relearn that Torah. That when a person learns Torah of a tzaddik, he is essentially giving the merit to the tzaddik to relearn that Torah in this world. That we become partners with the tzaddik on his merit. Because right now we learned that limud together. And that goes back to the same concept of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. We say Sfarim, the books of life and the dead are open. That when you learn the Torah of the tzaddik, when you say a story of one of the miracles that a tzaddik did, you give the tzaddik the merit to redo that mitzvah, to relearn that Torah, and you become partners with the tzaddik in that specific thing. Now, as we know, what the Gemara in Masechet Chulin Daf Zayin says that Gdolim tzaddikim b'mitatan me'Hashem mechayem. A tzaddik, when he's no longer in this world, has more koach than when he's in this world. A tzaddik, when he passes away, he has more koach. Why? Why does he have more koach? And this is something amazing. When a tzaddik is alive in this world, he doesn't want to use his merit. When you come to a tzaddik that's alive and you beg him, do me a miracle, the tzaddik doesn't want to. If he does a miracle for you when he's alive, he's using his merit. He's burning his merit, giving his merit in exchange for a miracle. A tzaddik, when he's alive, he doesn't want to do that. Because he's giving up his merit, giving up his limud, giving up all what he's worked hard for. But a tzaddik, when he's no longer in this world, when a big rabbi is no longer in this world, there is no concept of trading merit for a miracle. Meaning, if you pray with the merit of the tzaddik, and you're connected to the tzaddik, if the tzaddik decides to grant your tefillah, he can use all his merit on one shot, all the merit of the tzaddik. He doesn't lose anything. So when a tzaddik, when a tzaddik grants a tefillah when he's no longer in this world, it has big koach. Now, Baal Shem Tov said that kol ha'osek b'maaseot shel tzaddikim, ki'ilu osek b'maaseh merkava. Baal Shem Tov said that a person that speaks of stories of tzaddikim, it's as if he's learning maaseh merkava. What is maaseh merkava? The highest form of Kabbalah. Now, Rabotai, I have a question. What's the connection? How by me saying Baal Shem Tov when he was traveling on the road and I say a story of the tzaddik, it's as if I'm learning maaseh merkava. What's the connection between them? And this goes back to our same point that we brought in Masechet Bechorot. If a person says a story of the tzaddik, if a person learns the Torah of the tzaddik, he gives the merit of the tzaddik to relearn the Torah. When he relearns that Torah, he becomes partners with the tzaddik. If that tzaddik, when he was alive, learned maaseh merkava, learned the highest form of Kabbalah, you become partners with that limud Kabbalah even when he was alive. So when a person says stories of the tzaddik, when a person learns the Torah of the tzaddik, he actually essentially becomes partners with the tzaddik with all his merit. So now I would like to say a short story regarding tefillah. And we're also going to speak a little bit about tefillah and Elul. The concept of tefillah and why is tefillah so important. My father, in Eretz Israel, when we lived there, on a daily basis there was Kabbalat Kal. People would come to receive a blessing. People would come to ask the tzaddik a bracha. One time, my father says a story that a lady came into his office crying.
Your father's or your?
My father's office. And she's holding in her hands a newborn baby. She comes to my father and she tells my father, I need a miracle. My baby is born blind. Bless him that he will have refuah shlema. And my father, he recalls, he said, you have a lady that's crying in front of you, saying that her son is blind and I'm going to give her a blessing. How can you do that? Even a person can't even stand in front of something like that and say, okay, so Bezrat Hashem, your kid will see, but it's not something easy. So my father told her, do you have emunah? Tell me, how much emunah do you have? How much faith do you have? So she told my father, I have a lot of faith. So my father said, take your baby to the grave of my father, of Rabbi Moshe, the tzaddik, the Terei Tidula. Put your kid on the kever, on the grave, and scream. Scream until the kollel that's upstairs kicks you out. Until the kollel doesn't kick you out, you didn't pray enough. When you pray to the point that they're going to forcefully, physically take you out, you know you prayed. After that, come back to me. Now, my father, he says, when he said that, at a certain point, there was a little bit of interest of getting away from an uncomfortable situation. A week later, she comes back crying against the office. They see her in the line. And my father said, she came back. Now she's going to come back and ask for another blessing. How do you bless a lady that's like that? She comes back to the office and she's crying. My father said, okay, what happened? He said, I went to the grave of your father. I prayed, I screamed, they kicked me out, they beat me up, they threw me out of the kever because I was screaming to the kollel upstairs. A couple of days later, I went to a checkup, and you're not going to believe it. The doctor's looking at the kid, and he's walking back and forth. And the doctor sees something strange. He sees the kid is following the doctor. When the doctor's walking left, the kid's looking at the doctor. When the doctor's looking right, he's following him. Right away, the doctor said something's wrong. Let's put him through all the tests again. They do all the tests, but the kid can see. There's a picture of my father holding that kid that day. And you see the look of that kid that he had staring into the eyes of my father. That's the power of tefillah. If a person wants something, if a person truly has emunah in the tzaddikim and truly has faith, if he prays hard enough, any tefillah can be heard. If a person prays in the merit of the tzaddik, if a person prays with a full faith, Abotai, the sky is the limit. So Abotai, Bezrat Hashem, today that it's Teilulah, Bezrat Hashem, I encourage everyone to pray in honor of the tzaddik, because the tzaddik here is the witness. Rabbi Moshe doesn't let any prayer go without it being heard. And before I finish, something about tefillah, I would like to say a beautiful chidush that has to do with Elul, about tefillah. We know in the Chodesh of Elul, we have to pray that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will forgive us. We have to pray that Bezrat Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will forgive all the sins that we did throughout the year. Like that, we will enter a year full of blessing, full of bracha. What do we pray for? How can a person come and pray that HaKadosh Baruch Hu forgive me for all what I did? How do you pray for something like that? So I saw something amazing. Throughout the Chodesh Elul, every day that we do Slichot, we mention a sentence. What sentence is this? We pray, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please bring back Yemei Kedem. Bring back the days that existed once. Kedem in Hebrew, the translation is history. Kedem, past. So we pray, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, bring us the past. Bring us back the days of Kedem, of the past. Abotai, the word Kedem, there's a big secret hiding in the word Kedem. If we take the word Kedem, break it to letters, how many? What are the letters?
144.
Kuf Daled Mem.
Kuf Daled Mem. Not
Nitkadem. Nitkadem. Always bring it back.
That's a beautiful chidush, but
Yours is probably better.
beautiful chidush.
I get it. It's a dish. I was thinking of grape juice.
So Rabotai, Kedem. So it's Kuf Daled Mem. When a person prays for HaKadosh Baruch Hu,
Midah.
forgive him for all his sins, we have to see something amazing. Let's go back in history a little bit. Kail, what sin did he do?
Murder.
He murdered. HaKadosh Baruch Hu forgave him. Kail, the second man that existed in the world, the first naturally born person, he murdered. What sin is that? Murder. David, now Rabotai, let's not get into it's controversial of if David did a sin or if he didn't do a sin. But we know, Rabotai, there's a Gemara that the Sanhedrin sat down and they brought down David from heaven and they judged him. And they judged him that he was guilty actually. And David said, for Gilu Arayot, there is we can repair. But Kol HaMivayesh et Chavero Barabim Elo Chelef Na'am. So David, what sin did he do? Gilu Arayot. He did the sin with Bathsheba. Controversial. Menashe. Who was Menashe? The king Menashe. Menashe was the king that put a sword in front of every Jewish home. And the law was that if a Jewish home keeps Torah and mitzvot, with that sword, the entire family will be killed. Menashe was the tzaddik, was the king that did the most avodat zarah in history. When Menashe did Teshuvah, what did HaKadosh Baruch Hu do? HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a hole in his chair to take Menashe and save Menashe. Cain, David, Menashe. First letter of all the three names, what word is that? Kedem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if you forgave those three big people that did the three sins, that Ya'areg velo Ya'avor, Avodah Zarah, Yichut Amim, Vegilu Arayot. The three sins, Ya'areg velo Ya'avor. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you forgave those three big people. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, forgive me. And that, Rabotai, is essentially what we have in Elul. We pray for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to forgive us for all what we did throughout the year. And Bezrat Hashem, B'zchut Rabbi Moshe, Aharon, Pinto, my grandfather, may HaKadosh Baruch Hu give everyone here